fear for his life. Oftentimes in my videos, I'm always like, see, if your marriage is affecting your sanity, it's time to walk away from it. But today, I got to realize the reason why, Mark cannot take that decision of walking away from his marriage. And his fear is valid. Do you support what he said? Do you think that if he decides to walk away from this marriage, that Vivian can actually go as far as taking his life? Hello, amazing fam. You're welcome to another episode of Another Wrong Marriage. This is episode 62. Guys, in this particular episode, Mark expressed his fears on why he feels that even though he knows that everything that they have said Vivian did, there are high chances that Vivian actually did that. But then he expressed his fears why he cannot be able to walk away from the marriage right now. And guys, if you have watched that episode, I want to ask you, do you think that his fears are valid? Do you think there are things that will be done to allay his fears at this time? Drop your opinion in the comment section. So while Chris and Mark were having discussion, Mark was expressing fear on what Vivian has become lately. I feel like Mark is just beginning to accept what everyone has been saying to him about Vivian. Even though he paid deaf ears to them initially, with everything and all the whole thing that Vivian has been telling him about his life, about how he should be careful and all that, Mark is beginning to realize that yes, that Vivian is actually who they said she is. And considering the fact that on the night where someone attempted to take Lisa's life, that Vivian came back on that same night wearing a hoodie. And the fact that, okay, considering the encounter he had with Nick, why Vivian was preparing food for Nick, something that ordinarily Vivian cannot do for him, he was actually doing it for Nick. Putting two and two together, like I always said, Mark now believed everything that, they have told him about Vivian. But the big issue for Mark now is, how does he walk away from such a person? He feels that any decision he decides to make now about Vivian might cost him his life. And as such, he's scared. So he was kind of, discussing with Chris and telling him that see why he's so scared of, leaving Vivian. He actually discussed with Chris, telling him everything that lately that people have said that Vivian did, and he's beginning to believe that Vivian actually did that. Now, during this discussion, Mark was so scared, like he was talking and it was as if he should just connect an earpiece or something to through his mouth to Chris' ear, so that no one else gets to hear what he was saying, because it's as if Vivian was at the house while they were having this discussion, and Mark was just expressing his fears that if he decides to walk away, even with all the whole glaring evidence, even though not yet proven, that Vivian might come for his life. And at this point, Chris kind of could not argue with Mark, because yes, with what Vivian has become lately, everyone should actually be careful of, doing anything that will get Vivian upset. Since they don't want to take any decision, concerning her arrest and all that. Even though Mark knows that there are high chances that the said baby that Vivian is carrying is not his child, he's also scared that, dragging or saying anything in that regard will actually trigger Vivian to do something funny to him, okay? And then even though, with the evidence that he got, because the day that Vivian tried to take Lisa's life, while she was coming back, it was Mark that actually saw her while she was walking into the house, and she was wearing a hoodie. And being the fact that the person that tried to take Lisa's life is a hooded woman, Mark has no iota of confusion in him now. Like, he's not trying to say, oh, it's possible it's not Vivian at this point. He is just trying to express his fears now that if he takes any decision, based on everything he has been able to gather, and the fact that Vivian is not saying she's not the one that took the money. She's actually acknowledging the fact that she's the one that took that money, but has also warned Mark that Mark should not try anything funny, that money is the only consolation she has in that marriage, because that she has never had peace since she walked into the marriage. And the fact that money is everything that she kind of, is a consolation for her. Now, Mark is trying to tell Vivian that she is going to return every bit of that money. And the fact that Mark knows that when Lisa gets well, that Ben is just going to focus on, Vivian. Vivian is actually in big problem right now, because once Lisa is out of the hospital, the focus will shift from Lisa and will go back to Vivian, and the big questions will start popping up. What happened to Nick? What is the relationship you have with Nick? Why did you have to take his life? Because nobody at this point is going to think that Madam Stella has anything to do with, with Nick, or even going as far as taking Nick's life. All fingers is just going to point to Vivian. And considering the fact that, our uncle already have something against Vivian and Nick, the evidence are going to just be so glaring at this point. And again, does Lisa actually know the person that tried to take her life? These are a whole lot of questions that will be popping up. Vivian is in big trouble. For the first time, Mark is beginning to realize that the woman he married is totally different from a woman he has already assumed in his head. And Mark is not going to show any form of support to Vivian anymore, because at this point, he now knows the truth. But one thing he doesn't know is the fact that Vivian will also come for him if he doesn't take time. And that is why he's being so careful. He's being so careful in his action. He's being so careful because even why Chris was asking him that why didn't you go, to check on your to-be sister-in-law, he expressed his fears. He said Vivian did not allow him to go. Ordinarily, someone out there will say, oh, does this guy have sense? But I feel that he's trying to tread with caution, considering the fact that he now knows who the said wife is. He is of the opinion that he needs to tread carefully so that another life will not go on the process. So guys, what do you advise Mark at this point? Because it's like Mark is beginning to come back to his senses, for him to accept that yes, Vivian is what everybody has said she is, and the fact that he's scared of his life right now. Do you think there is anything that Mark needs to do now to take Vivian out of the way? If someone like Mark comes to ask you for an advice on how to walk away from such a marriage, what will be your advice to Mark? Okay, and then what will you have also if you were to be Chris, who Mark confided in that this is his reason why he's here to walk out of this marriage? What will you have Chris say to Mark? What advice would you have, like if you were Chris, what advice would you have given to Mark at this point? Do you think that Vivian will also come for Mark, considering the fact that Mark is now trying to, threaten Vivian with a lot of things, with the money and all those stuff, and the fact that he is expressing regret for ever getting married to Vivian? I want your opinion, your analysis in the comment section. Thank you guys for your love.